I've been banned. So I found out a sneaky way to make money, and Bet365 decided to cut me off. Here you can see I tried to make a recent wager on Andrew Wiggins, and they blocked it at 50 cents. Made it completely useless to even try to bet through them anymore. I'm going to be telling you about that strategy that I used. Maybe you could copy it and replicate and make your own profits. We will also be talking about the NFL draft, talk some NBA playoffs as well. And we are welcoming back Dr. Kenneth Call. He's off baby duty for a little bit, so we're glad to have you in.
Hey, Phil, thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, not getting any sleep. There's a fun baby. Santi's awesome. But I'm glad to be back and glad to talk about football. News is you can be wrong, 4 months before it starts. So glad we can talk about it now.
Yeah, it's always fun. You actually can't be wrong right now because nothing's happening, so it's impossible. All right.
Yeah, don't chop this up.
All right. So we are just going to start by talking about the arbitrage opportunity I found. I shared a couple instances with you. I'm going to walk through real quick what I did about it and, how it eventually led to me being banned. So,
and
for starters,
thank you. Because I didn't get banned and I, made some good pocket cash off it. So tell them about it.
Good for you. All right. So as I go through it, Ken, just stop me if I get too far ahead of myself or anything like that. But all we did is I looked at different sites, which in this case it was either FanDuel and Bet365 or DraftKings and Bet365. I looked at the small player prop section and talking like 15 or 20 plus really long odds and compared that to the Bet365 odds for their, I think it's called player points high or player points low. And if you take the odds, so for like Kevin Love was one that we did recently. He was 15 plus points. So if I looked at under 15 plus, under 15 and a half on Bet365 and his over on FanDuel, if you add up those odds and it comes out to a number greater than 0, it means there's a chance for free money to be made. So when you bet both sides, one of them is guaranteed to hit, and it's also guaranteed to return a profit in your pocket if you bet the right amounts. So that's
throw some numbers out there on what to like look for in terms of the actual numbers minus on each side.
Yeah. So for example, Kevin Love, I think, was plus 700 for his under 15 and a half points. And then his over was at minus 5. That's backwards. I'm sorry. His under was minus 500 and his over was plus 700. So when you have those two numbers and put them together, you end up with like a plus 200, which comes out to being like a full net amount of a 4% return. It doesn't sound like much, but when I did this day after day after day and bet large amounts of money on it, I was making 4%. So in 1 week, 7 days, 4% times 7, that's a 30% return. If you start with easy math, $100, then you end up with $130 at the end of it. So at the end of the week. However, each day you're only making $4, but it's still worth it. It's not compounded interest, which stinks, but because they limit the dollars you can bet.
So, what when you're looking for one of those bets, besides those number, just the number, like what types of bets are you really?
How do you go about finding these numbers and where might they exist? Is the question.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah. So what I did is I just went to 365 has something called player points milestones, and it gives every player for that game that I'm looking at, and we'll say Heats versus Bucks was the actual example. I looked at 25 plus and like 20 plus points because those are absurd like lots of players are going to be listed and you can get an idea of what their odds are on 365. Then just go over to the same spot on FanDuel. They have plus 25 and plus 20. And what you can do is you can look side to side and be like, okay, I see Jimmy Butler's plus 25 is minus 110 on Bet365, and it's minus 125 on FanDuel. That means the sites generally agree. However, when you look at them and you start to see differences where it's like, all right, Kevin Love is listed at, for 15 plus points, he is listed at plus 300 for Bet365. But on FanDuel, he's listed at plus 750. There, I mean, there's a huge disconnect there. And that's when it's like, okay, this player I can flag and start checking out his like alt lines and stuff like that and getting a little bit more specific. That way you're not checking every player individually. I did that once or twice, and it was just painful to look through each and every detail.
So what number were you like, okay, this is if you're adding the plus 700 minus 500 together, when were you like, you know what, let's look into it?
Okay, so let me open up. I have a spreadsheet for this, but I was hoping to get I 2% return was my minimum amount for a little bit. I upped it to a 3%, so that you're talking minus 700 or plus 700 to minus 550. If there was one that was like plus 600 to minus 500, it just wasn't enough return, and obviously that matters now because I didn't know at the time, but they will eventually stop you from taking their money, which is very unfortunate.
Yeah. You needed some winners on FanDuel, not just all on Bet365. Probably would have helped a little bit.
I once or twice it happened. I can't remember who, but there was someone who the long odds ended up paying out. But yeah, so obviously it is.
And when would was there a time where it's like, okay, you know a few days before the game were these odds better, or was it more, oh, I would get this like 7 o'clock before the 7:30 game? Like what, when were you
That's
really
a great point.
finding it?
The further away from the game, the more likely you are to find this, right? Because what they will do is someone like me will come in and see this and bet as much as they possibly can, and just ruin it for everyone else. Because once a big bet is in, they adjust their odds. So you want to be looking as far out ahead of the game as possible. I would say typically 48 hours is too early before odds get posted, so probably like 24 hours in advance is when you can find something. I'm gonna be back, Ken. I'm sorry, this hurts. That
So you're
helped a
back.
lot. All right, don't worry. I found the spreadsheet I use. Um, no, Noah was on here and put it in the chat. That cake though. So I found the spreadsheet I use, and what we can do is I'll actually walk through what people will see, could have seen. I was looking for it, but I just couldn't find it earlier.
When did you find it, Phil?
Uh, the old squat and surf. 1 second. All right, so all right, we're actually gonna sound like we're talking in now. I don't even know what I said previously.
Yeah. So, Phil, what you're saying is people should listen to you because you were so good at betting that they actually restricted how much you can do all the way down to 50 cents.
That is true, and I will show you my fancy little spreadsheet that got me to do all this. As you can see, there is almost nothing going on in the spreadsheet, and that's because that's how simple it is to follow these. The hardest part, like we said, was trying to find the bets, but here we are. We found our Kevin Love odds. Very easy. Over 15, under 15 and a half. These are backwards. This should say over 15, and that should say under 15 and a half, but that's fine. Anyways, so this spreadsheet works very simply. All you do is say I want to put $1 on the underdog, which is the high odds. Then you can actually back into what you're supposed to wager on the opposite side by comparing the decimal odds, which for people that don't know, American odds are stupid and they're what you see listed on every sports book. They make no sense, but you can convert them to decimal odds with a fancy formula. If it's positive, take the number divided by 100 plus 1, and then if it's negative, you just take 1 plus 100 over the number, and you get, this is what, if you bet $1, what you get in return. That's how decimal odds works. I like it way more. I keep the books on that side. So here we go. Go ahead.
Yeah. For us normal people who like the American system, we like our inches, we like our feet, we don't like centimeters. You can, it's a really easy switch in the actual sports book that you can do. I don't do that because I like my normal plus 100s and minus 500s. So,
well, all you have to do, because I have those numbers listed too, is put together a fancy spreadsheet like this, convert them, and you'll get how much you need to bet on the opposite side. Anyways, what you were asking previously is what was the return I demanded from this, right? So here we get, this was one of the best ones we found. Not only do you get a 4% return, but there is this tiny little sliver of a chance that you can get hit on both of these, where if he scores 15 points exactly, you would win both bets. Anyways, let's say you were getting crazy and you were betting $1,000 total on this. Then your total return would be $44, $43.50. Now, it doesn't sound like much, but like I said, this is a risk-free bet. You have the chance to win both, which would pay out huge. And if you do it day after day, so you do it every day for a week, you end up walking away with $300, which I think is an absolute steal to get that for free. Most banks, you'd be fortunate to get this in a year in a savings account, and they're offering this to you in a day.
And just to note, this is not a risk-free bet like you see on FanDuel and DraftKings for like, oh, you get your bet money back or something. No. This is an actual risk-free bet. It doesn't make games fun to watch. I mean, unless of course you're aiming for that 15 right in the middle. But typically, I mean, either way, you win that amount. It doesn't matter if it goes over. It doesn't matter if it goes under. It's all about an actual, if you have the $1,000 to put in, it's going to be $43 free dollars. So
yeah,
no risk involved.
This is not a risk-free bet. It is in the finance world. It's called arbitrage, where you can take your money, make it more money, and have absolutely no chance of losing your money at all. It is a fantastic deal, and it happens because sports books don't always have to agree. However, when you do it rapidly enough, they start to catch on to you and say, you know what? You're not allowed to bet at our casino anymore. And that's how you get banned by Bet365.
Yes. If it was an actual bet, Phil probably wouldn't have gotten banned, and he probably would have lost a lot more money.
Hey, I've made some solid bets, but yes, I don't think my actual bets have even been close to a 4% return. What was it? My what's it? The my total NFL picks this year ended up leading to just over making money, but like 2.5%. So it is what it is. You have fun. That's why you bet, unless you get free money like this. Anyways, Ken has enjoyed some of this. I found good ones that he wanted to tag along. Listener always, Nate Schmidt. He tagged on some of these. Once I got banned, he's like, I'm gonna start being more hesitant though. Be more subtle rather than max these out. Take some of what I can get, not all.
I've been doing about once a week, and I max that bad boy out, and once a week they haven't really cared. So
the letter I got was hilarious. It's one of those things like Pat McAfee when Brett Favre said he's suing him for like what's it called, libel. I think libel's spoken, or slander, whatever one's spoken when he talks smack about Brett Favre and all the lawsuits against him in Mississippi. Pat McAfee's like, do you know how honored I am to be sued? Like, my show is so popular that someone feels they need to sue me for the things I said.
You guys hear that? Go sue Phil.
If you sue me for the show, I'll be honored. You can take everything the show has, which turns out to be one JJ Watt rookie card.
Oh, man.
So that's a perfect transition. Let me share my screen once more. This is courtesy of Dr. Kenneth Call. We are going to be doing a raffle at 100 subscribers. If you are interested in listening to us or trying to win this cool JJ Watt rookie card, I think I saw it listed on eBay for like $90. So definite some profit could go in your pocket if you just took it and sold it. I know Ken rolled his eyes. You might not get that much is what his point is.
No, it's the raffle of 100 people. That is great odds compared to any other giveaway you'll ever see.
So at 100 subscribers, we will do this. So if you want to be a part of the raffle, subscribe to us on YouTube. That is all that counts. If you follow us on Facebook, we appreciate it, but that's not where this is coming from. So JJ Watt, it is a rookie card, I believe. So
yes,
look,
correct.
Pretty cool. He's pretty famous for winning all those defensive players of the years. Booyah.
Yeah, top 2 Watt ever to play football.
Dude, he's number 1, and it's
I'm just kidding.
As of right now.
He's in the top 2. One is in the top 2.
Can't get anything past you. Those are the kind of statistics that make me super pissed. Oh man, dude. If we had more time, I would complain about Nick Wright and stupid things he did today. But anyways, NFL draft reactions. Lots happened in the NFL draft. Notably, Bryce Young going number 1. I think everyone kind of anticipated that. But the Houston Texans made a move to draft 2nd and 3rd, which is so stupid. Ken, what was your reaction to them actively going for Will Anderson like that?
I really like when teams pick their guys and say, we're going for it. It's not we'll fall, we'll see what happens. Good quarterbacks, especially like a few years ago when there were like 4 like top 10 quarterbacks, and people like, just wait and see which one falls. No. Go get your guy. That's the bet you want to make. Now, with that being said, if you have 2 guys in the draft, maybe not super overpay for the second one. That's what I got.
So when you say super overpay, like when you look at that draft compensation, and the Texans GM came out and said, like, yeah, we drafted CJ Stroud, so we'd have to offer less in the trade. But they didn't offer less. They still gave up like 2 first-rounders, a second-rounder, all to move up for a defensive end. So just frustrating that they paid a quarterback price for a defensive end. It's the bottom line.
Yeah, no, you shouldn't pay quarterback price for non-quarterback in this league. But at the same time, like I get like they wanted to set up a new team. They wanted their leader on the offense. They wanted the leader on the defense, and things to build around. If I'm a Houston fan, I guess I'm excited. Um, you just pay too much. I don't know how else to say it. Like you know it's a high price. I mean, what level of success does he have to like really pay for it? And it's quite high, you know.
So you have to remember there. So now there is, I think the lowest two like Super Bowl odds right now are the Cardinals and the Texans. So if you invert that, that means they have the worst. They have the potential to be the worst two teams in the NFL. Next year, the best two quarterback prospects of like the last 5 years are both in the draft. There is a chance the Cardinals have a $200 million quarterback on their roster and the rights to the best two quarterback prospects there are. Like that is just such a low, like that is just such a valuable draft pick to have that you shouldn't give it away.
All right. And just to be completely contrary to myself, for as much as I love going up and getting your guy, I absolutely love teams that trade and get a ton for these quarterbacks, these high picks. You know, like the ones that like kind of jump out recently are the teams that moved up for like Marcus Mariota and Carson Wentz, and you just paid a
And
bunch.
Trey Young or Trey Lance.
You know what? Based off of my cards and a allotted value for Trey Lance, let's not rule him out of anything. But no, certainly like there's no guarantees. If you want to, if you have a quarterback and you're going to stick with them, get that haul, And also, I guess if you have a defensive end, get that haul. Get that
It's just
haul if
so
you're the
funny because
Cardinals.
like Anthony Richardson's there. Everyone was hyping him up, and Will Levis was there too, as we all knew, and it turned to be nothing. But they have the third pick. There are two quarterbacks remaining that people want, and you're out there bidding against them. It blew my mind. I'm happy for the Texans. I think they're a team that probably does hit their over in terms of win totals, but betting the second or first overall pick like that on you being confident in yourself is not the best move. You still have the worst odds according to Vegas. So, and Vegas is typically right on these things, except when a guy on Reddit says so.
So speaking of guy on Reddit and you mentioning Will Levis, I have to say, like the best tweet that I've seen this year. There's a video of Will Levis pre-draft saying, if I'm not going in the first round, high in the first round, I'm not going to actually go to the draft. He goes, you've seen it before. And if, when people start dropping and that camera's just on them all day, that's horrible. He goes, if I think that's going to be me, I'm not going to the draft.
Oh, that's hilarious. So he was super confident in himself, and it turns out he was the only one as he just fell.
Well, was it Indy that said if Anthony Richardson's not there, they would have taken Levis? So,
dude, that's the Texans making another mistake. They could have had Will Levis in their conference, maybe, if they let someone else trade up for Anthony Richardson.
So, what do you think of? I did make a note of Tennessee Titans. I guess Will Levis. I don't know. I really like Vrabel. I don't hate Tannehill, and I like Derrick Henry. I was just curious, like your thoughts on them moving up. They're over under 7.5 wins. Do you have anything? Do you care at all?
Under. I think they tried to trade Derrick Henry. I don't think they're gonna believe in Will Levis. Like they just drafted Malik Willis in the third round. Obviously, they don't believe in him because he didn't do much in his play. But I don't see much out of this roster at all. I mean, when you look at their receiving core, it's a complete joke. I like, who is it? Treylon Burks was their first round pick last year. He looks solid, but behind
he's looked
him,
really good.
Behind him there wasn't much. So I don't like the Titans. They need a year or two to punt and restack this roster. I think they've made a lot. They got rid of their GM right going into this
Mhm.
offseason. And it's
It
because he
was
made
it
a lot
was
of bad
mid-year.
moves.
I thought it was
Mhm.
mid-year,
Well, they
actually.
got rid of him mid, but my point
Yeah.
is the first chance for this GM to build this team was this year. They need to get rid of. They still have their bad contracts. Like, not to sound mean, Derrick Henry is a bad contract when you look at the NFL. Bud Dupree is a bad contract, and he was their expensive defensive end. So they just gotta hit the reset button. It's gonna take a year or two, and I don't think Will Levis. I I think he felt like it's like Deshaun Kaiser. Like when he fell to the second round, it's like that guy has tools, but it didn't amount to anything. So that's how I feel about Will Levis.
Mhm. It's the one I'd love to take the 7.5 wins. I don't trust anyone. Obviously, yeah, everyone loves the Jaguars, rightfully so, in that division. Besides that, there's a whole bunch of nothing. I think Vrabel's a good coach, but exactly what you said. I think I like Traylon Burks. I like Derrick Henry. I think Tannehill's one of those guys who has minimal tools, but can get you, more of a game manager. He can win games that he should.
He can
Besides,
make the throws that Derrick Henry opens, right?
yes, absolutely. And he has like just enough mobility, but that's it. That I mean, they don't have anyone else on their team. I like some of the stars, but and that is, I mean, huge drop off after that.
Their
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 next, their
defense, their defense is like, can Mike Rabel hype his guys up, and can they out like, because they schemed the crap out of the Chiefs on Monday night. They held them pretty well. I can't remember how many points they scored, but it was like a scoreless second half or something crazy.
mm-hmm.
Or scoreless first half. I can't remember. They took him to overtime with Malik Willis as the quarterback, is all you need to know. And it wasn't because he was scoring. So uh, they can get a couple wins like that, but I am just so low on them. I
Yep. I
Yeah.
I have them very similarly to the Giants as teams that really like out overperformed last year. Now that being like the Tennessee defense and the Giants
Yeah.
defense, um, and
I mean, the
teams
Titans
that.
were like 8-2 at one point or something stupid.
No, honestly, last year, if Tannehill doesn't get hurt, they picked Malik Willis, who clearly wasn't ready, and then after that, Tannehill came back early, and it just wasn't there. The fact that Josh Dobbs almost got them to the playoffs is all you need to know about why the GM got fired mid-season.
Yeah.
Um, but just like the Giants, I think that the defense is, it overperformed. Great. They overpaid Daniel Jones. I don't think they have the tools, and I like both of the unders for them for the season.
Uh, for what? For the
The
Giants
Giants
and
and
Titans.
the Titans.
Yeah, I can't. I love the Giants under is one of my favorite bets. Um, but let's go on. Oh, other draft reactions. Sorry, we that's like the first. We only got through like 3 picks right now. There's other people. Anthony Richardson. I have no take besides I hope Gardner Minshew starts all next year. Like for his sake and because I love Gardner Minshew.
I don't. I mean, lower expectations for Indy, but they're definitely closer to the team that they were in 21 than 22. I think. I think they have solid players kind of throughout, and Minshew's he's that guy who can, he doesn't have the tools to put together these like, great throws, but he can win games. I like Gardner Minshew. Um, I don't know. I think that they'll do a little better than people anticipate, but Jags running away with that one.
Yeah, I mean, Jags have one of my favorite quarterbacks. I'm just flipping through. We are going to be focusing on people who matter for fantasy football purposes because we care a lot about fantasy, and I'm not interested in talking about Paris Johnson, Darnell Wright, Peter Skoronski because it's O linemen. You need you need 3 of them to have a good O line. So, anyways, Bijan Robinson is the next major player. He went at 8. A running back, it's pretty shocking given the recent trend of early round running backs and how no one wants to give a running back a second contract. The only team that kind of makes sense for is, the team that runs the ball 50 times a game and throws it 5. So, what do you think about Bijan?
I think that kind of like you said, I think he's on a good fit for a team that runs the ball a ton. I think that I mean, as good as Tyler Algier did towards the end of the year, Cordero Patterson, he's just kind of a fan favorite. I love when he does good. I want him to do good for, who he is and what he brings to a team. But Bijan Robinson's kind of what they need to kind of mask all of the inefficiencies of like when Connor's here. Oh my God, I love how much he hates their coach, man. Uh,
Dude,
and
the bottom 5 coach in his opinion, dude, he just loves trashing.
he's a bottom 2 coach. It's
Yeah,
it,
no,
Connor.
no.
Man, he really hates him.
Sorry, bottom 1 coach if you're going based on Connor's opinion.
Yeah. But you know, God, I love the talent. I like Drake on that team. I like Drake London. I like Kyle Pitts. I like Bijan Robinson, and I just don't see them putting it together. I don't. Desmond Ritter is not an answer. If that's the answer, it's the incorrect one. Um,
Yeah, and their other answer is the Commanders quarterback Heineke. Like that's not good.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. So I think Bijan will be an interesting. He'll be an interesting fantasy player on a very uninteresting team.
I completely
Uh,
agree. I think the draft stock of Drake London and Kyle Pitts is now burned. They don't matter this year. They're not going to be 1,000-yard receivers. They're not going to be big touchdown guys. I think this offense is going to be exactly what we saw last year. I don't trust Desmond Ritter to do anything. He was a 3rd-round pick for a reason. So yeah,
mhm.
lots of running, lots of creative running. Bijan could have a great year, but I just hate that they're torching two of the great young receivers right now. Next up, Jamar Gibbs. This shocked me. I wasn't shocked that 2 running backs went in the 1st round with all the news around Jamar Gibbs recently. But I think it was Matt Friedman I think he's on Fantasy Pros now, who wrote the Lions have brought a chessboard to the checkers game, or a checkers board to the chess game because they made 2 picks and all models had like these guys going at the end of the 1st round or maybe into the 2nd. And they're like, you know what? No, we got to get our guys, which works out sometimes, but also I think it's just terrible moves. Anyways, Jamar Gibbs, they get rid of DeAndre Swift, I think at the end of day 1 or at the start of day 2.
Started day 2. Yep.
Yeah, so Jamar Gibbs looks like he's the man right alongside David Montgomery. What do you think about them?
So, once again, listening to you guys, I know you guys really hate David Montgomery.
Oh yeah,
I don't. I think that David Montgomery is much better than Jamal Williams. Now,
much better. Did you
yes,
know? Here we go. I'm gonna go bad stats guy. Did you know he broke Barry Sanders' rushing touchdown record?
I did. Yep, that's fine.
Yeah.
I think that last Jamal Williams, he played a role. He was a plotter. I mean, the most classic. I mean, anytime he got the ball, like receiving, it was because nobody thought he was getting the ball. And what he did with it was nothing special. And yes, David Montgomery is a nothing special running back, but I think that David Montgomery is much higher up in that category. I think that I don't hate him. I think he's a good in between the tackles runner. I think that now last year we were making fun of the Bears O line all year. They picked up 3 people the week before the season started, and they started on their line. That was 60% of the Bears' offensive line was put together the same week of game, or 2 weeks before game 1. So, what David Montgomery is, yeah, I think that he brings something. I get
he plays football. He is on the field for sure.
yes. What I don't giving 18 million to David Montgomery and then picking a really high 1st-round pick for a running back. I don't know. The Lions, I like their offense. I think they're going to make it work because of all the other pieces there. But I don't know because man, that whole betting thing. What did they do? Did they just join a draft pool or a betting pool on DraftKings called Lions Receiving Room or something? Like,
well, the funniest thing I heard is like, dude, every company blocks the Wi-Fi when you're on their Wi-Fi, right? Like block sites on their Wi-Fi. They are gambling on the facility's premises. How is it not blocked?
They were probably using their own data, Phil.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, they're on 3G.
Yeah. In Detroit, the three
Oh my.
probably took them
We're-
20 minutes to put in each bet.
They're using messenger pigeons. By the
Whoa.
way, David Montgomery was the third best ball carrier on his team last year. Don't forget. Khalil
Yep.
Herbert, Justin Fields.
But I just don't understand going out and getting Jamar Gibbs. I just don't get it.
I completely agree. I understand being frustrated with DeAndre Swift and shipping him off. But at the same time, like, if you go out and you pay for David Montgomery, you can wait until the second or third round for a running back, because this was a running back rich draft, is what everyone said. And you didn't need to take one then. So that's all I gotta say. let's
with the holes on their defense, like going and getting an RB, I just did not understand. And the whole thing with DeAndre Swift, even if you don't like him as a bell cow, how they used him last year was excellent. Maybe not fantasy wise, but certainly for team production wise, he brings a lot. And I just don't know if they're going to be able to replace that. With that being said, how do you feel about the Eagles running back room now?
DeAndre Swift is my favorite. Rashad Penny is number 2, and one of them, and they will both be hurt by week 10. So I don't know who else is
Kenneth
there.
Gainwell.
Yeah, Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott will be leading the way there. Maybe Jordan Howard. I think I've seen him in the mix. Like, just it's just last year with minus Miles Sanders. So
I don't know. I really like Rashad Penny, definitely a better, like, between the tackles runner, versus DeAndre Swift is just opens up the game so much more. The RPO with Jalen Hurts can just be real dangerous. It's hard not to like the Eagles right now, especially after how they did in the draft. Picking up DeAndre Swift for nothing. I think, what was it, like essentially a 4th round pick?
7th.
Oh, just a 7th round pick.
Great. I thought it was like 2 7ths or something.
I thought it was like a 4 and a 7th for a 5th or something like that.
Oh yeah. I think it was a 7th this year and a 4th next year, which is why I ignored the next year.
Okay.
But anyways, yeah. While we're on them, we're not going to talk about this much because I said we're going to focus on fantasy relevant things. But they got 2 top 12 defenders, arguably maybe the best defender in the draft in Jalen Carter, and then Nolan Smith, who just flew down the board, but is still like one of the top 2 or 3 defensive ends taken in this draft. And I don't know how they did it, but they just got their defensive front to be younger and faster and better when it was already great. I hate them for doing that. I don't know how the NFL let that happen.
And I'm no draft expert. College football, it's tough, but taking people. Georgia's defense has just been on a whole different level from the entire FBS for the last 2 years. Picking a bunch of them up. Number one, fans love it. Number two, I mean, really, can you go wrong? I mean, at the very least, there's talent over there.
Yeah, I think who was it? Jordan Davis was their first pick last year. Another Georgia Bulldog up front. All right, let's go on to the next. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, just because talking about the Eagles, looking at like future bets now, and yeah, probably not the best idea to pick a future bet right now, but for their division, Eagles plus 100. Now, I know that there are a bunch of teams that made the playoffs from that division last year, and I know they almost had all of them, because the Commanders really suck towards the end there, but Eagles being plus 100, I really think that the Cowboys certainly overproduced last year. Giants absolutely did. I actually think the team that underproduced was Washington, and they're going through a bunch of changes right now that can only be positive for their team as a whole. But being plus 100 for a team that's like number one, like favored to win the entire NFC, but they just made these moves. I kind of like that one.
Yeah, that so I'm just doing like a comparison to other teams, you know, get a
Mm-hmm.
feel. And it's like the Jaguars are minus 150. The Chiefs are minus 165. The Niners minus 150. The Saints are plus 110, just about the same as the Eagles. So I'm with you that I think they're a really good football team. They are the number 2 favorite to win the Super Bowl next year, and but their division, they're not like there's way too much credit being given to the Cowboys here. Is all I'm seeing, because I don't trust the Cowboys to be any kind of good. Well, they'll be fine. They'll be a above average team because of how bad the NFC is and how they just have solid players. But I don't think the Cowboys they're just a B plus team. They'll never beat an A team.
Is that till they get rid of Dak and reboot, or is that just
Yeah.
in general? Okay.
I think Mike McCarthy limits their offense. Dak limits their offense. Just the way they play the game limits them. Like last year, it was relying on Zeke way too much, and I'm sure they're not going to get away from running the ball. Even though Tony Pollard's a good back, but there's just who's the receiver they traded for? Is it Cooks?
Oh crap! I think it's Cooks.
I gotta look at it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Cooks.
Yeah, so Cooks gives them a little bit of offense, someone to complement CeeDee Lamb. But I just don't buy it. They lost their big tight end, so they lost the chain mover. I don't know. It just doesn't feel right to me. It must just be Dak. I must just not trust Dak to win a relevant game. So
I think that they had such a huge advantage at offensive line for so long, and really like catered their whole offense to it, and that's slowly just dying away. Yeah, I mean, just like they do, and I don't think they revamped it enough, and yeah, I don't. I definitely think compliment guy. I think just the burst that he brings is not really an every downs back type. If he comes out and is a league winner in fantasy, sure, I'll take that one. But I think there's a better chance that they hurt versus leads you to a fantasy championship.
I completely agree. But let's go on back to the draft. The next setup is a run of 4 wide receivers: Jackson Smith, Najiba. Sorry if I didn't pronounce that correctly. Quentin Johnston, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison. So lots of mixed emotions here for me. We'll just start with JSN to Seattle. I think this is a nothing move in terms of fantasy relevance. I think it's a great addition to their receiving core. I also think it is betting on Geno Smith, who, as Connor and I spoke about when we did win totals, he fell off at the back end of last year, and I think teams started to figure him out a little. I don't know if this is the hope to diversify their offense and get some over the middle yards instead of just deep shots between DK and Tyler Lockett. But I think he is the third member of an offense that I don't expect. Like, they'll have 4 touchdown games where they light people up, but I think the floor is very low, and I think you're going to get a lot of stinkers out of JSN.
How do you pronounce your second round pick? That the running back they got.
The running back. Oh, come on! You're asking me to pronounce names.
Chardonnay or
Zach Charbonnet. Charbonnet. I don't know.
So-
Charbonnet.
Yeah. I don't like that they picked a second round running back after picking a second round running back and hitting out of the park with Kenneth Walker. I get that Kenneth Walker is certainly more of a big play guy, not necessarily the between the tackles, ground and pounder, but going out and getting a receiver, like, fortifying like the receiving core, and then getting a second running back too. It's like are you going to try to air it out? Are you going to trust Smith, or are you going to do more of a classic ground and pound with these strong running backs? I don't. Just between that and a lot of it's betting on Geno Smith, and that's not a bet I want to make. So I think that good for their team. Definitely bad for fantasy. Like, I mean, they're just spreading out points. Every year, I think Tyler Lockett is not going to be relevant, and he always surprises me. But you know, I I just want to stay away from most of them now, especially if you get a running back to take away Kenneth Walker's touchdowns.
So I think last year when I did wide receiver rankings, I put this team as like a top 10 wide receiver team, but said, sorry, your quarterback's Geno Smith. And he made me eat my words for the first half, but then confirmed my thoughts for the second half of the year. I just I just don't trust Geno. I know they gave him $100 million or whatever, but bottom line is I don't trust him. Let's go on. Quentin Johnston, going to the Chargers. Looks like he is the Mike Williams. Do you know why I say that? Because he is like the same thing as Mike Williams. He's huge. He's fast. He's an athlete. He is not a technician. So, what is your thoughts on Johnston?
Is he injury prone? That's the question. So, Quentin Johnston, in terms, if I had to pick someone to have the most receiving yards in this class, I would pick him. I
Wait,
think
year one
that
receiving yards or total career?
year one, year
Okay.
one. So, I mean, they made it clear like Justin Herbert is a passing quarterback. That offense is a passing team. I didn't like their offense in terms of they're like, listen, we're gonna put four receivers or three receivers, a receiving tight end, and then Austin Eckler out there receiving passes out. They had five linemen that were honestly a poor group, and they said Justin Herbert, go. There's no protection, and get these short passes out. He passed the ball, what was it, 699 times last year. That's a ton. But the whole thing is, he did make some very I don't want to say average receivers look very good last year. Who was it? Jordan Palmer and who
Josh
was
Palmer.
there?
I was just
Oh,
about
I'm
to
sorry.
bring him up that
Yeah,
he was the number one guy for multiple weeks due to injury.
yeah.
Sorry.
But Josh Palmer, and then who was the other their fourth
I'm on it.
back there?
I'm on it. You just wait.
But point being, Keenan Allen has an injury history. Mike Williams has an injury history. Better yet, if they're all out there, great. But I like that the direction. I'm hoping that they have a little bit more of a downfield attack this year because guess what? When Herbert didn't throw downfield a ton, percentage wise with 699 throws, but when he did, it looked good. It looked damn good. And so I'm hoping that they start playing to his strengths a little bit. Um, and I mean, get more people that you can air it out to. So, uh, there's nothing saying that Keenan Allen getting older doesn't lose a step. There's nothing saying that Mike Williams doesn't get hurt. And Quentin Johnston can really just, I mean, there's a non-zero chance that he leads a very strong passing team is as just their number one receiver towards the end of the year next year.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Justin Herbert had the lowest yards per attempt, or like air yards per attempt, or something last year, just because of like the frequency when he was throwing. DeAndre Carter was the guy that you were thinking of
DeAndre
that
Carter, thank you.
he made look good. And if you remember, DeAndre Carter is famous for being a punt from the Jets, and then I think he was on the Washington football team. He wasn't on the Commanders.
Or a
But
stud receiver for the Chargers.
I was gonna say, but last year he comes out, has 500 yards and 3 touchdowns and 7 starts. Like just a solid play, a solid fantasy weeks. Josh Palmer is not the guy. He is a solid third, but like injuries to Williams and Keenan Allen hampered this offense. And now you get Quentin Johnston to or complement to Mike Williams. Either way, it's like, all right, if they're both on the field, who you doubling and who you letting try, play 50-50 balls. And then once Mike Williams gets hurt, at least they have an adequate replacement to throw the ball deep. So I'm with you. I like what this does for the Chargers as a whole. Next up, Zay Flowers going to Baltimore. Baltimore doing everything they can to revamp their offense. This is like Odell comes in. I don't know if Antonio Brown's actually there. I saw the Twitter post, but I don't believe it. You get Rashad
No,
Bateman.
don't believe that. And don't believe it.
you're not going to trust Antonio Brown about where he plays football. Typically, I trust the players the most about where they play. No.
Did you wait real quick on Antonio Brown? Did you see that he's a partial owner of a Canadian like arena football league team or something like that, and none of the players got paid. He just didn't send out paychecks.
Oh
Oh,
my
I love
gosh.
it.
He's just always making the world giving the world a smile here and there, except for the players on his teams. But anyways, what was I saying? So now you get Rashad Bateman, Odell Beckham Jr., Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews. That is 2 first round picks, Odell Beckham Jr. and Mark Andrews. You just spent 200.
Maybe a healthy J.K. Dobbins too, just in terms of weapons.
But like you spent $250 million on your quarterback, and now you're going all in on his receiving core for the first time. What are your thoughts? I am going to say very meh on everything for me.
I think.
Oh, sorry. Lamar Jackson did say he wants to throw for 6,000 yards with all the weapons he has. His words, not mine.
Never heard a quarterback say, "Yeah, I really want to run the ball, though." But I like, once again, I like the effort. I like trying to get Lamar Jackson happy. Way overpaying Odell Beckham, a guy who's coming off of twice torn ACL, who didn't play for a year. Rashad Bateman coming off, foot injuries, and they do take a while to heal, but at the same time, you do get back to pretty close to, your 100% like play activity, especially a younger guy like Bateman. But I mean, I like their weapons. I think that especially last year and the year before that for the Ravens, they kept getting hurt, and it's not just Lamar Jackson; it's their entire team. Offense
2 years ago,
defense.
I think literally their entire defensive backfield was out.
Yeah,
like they were on like 8th string guys.
Mm-hmm. And towards the beginning of last year, the Ravens, the only games they lost, they were up by double digits in the fourth quarter, and they just blew it. But they can play with anybody. I think that it's all on Lamar now. It's like, hey, you got some weapons. Fantasy wise, unfortunately, there's just too many mouths to feed in a non-pass heavy offense. Like, I do not. Even Mark Andrews last year had a pretty disappointing fantasy year. I just don't see tons of value. If these players drop, there's nothing. Ask me who their number one productive receiver is going to be. Probably Andrews. It could be Bateman. Could be Flowers. I don't think it's Odell, but he's paid like it. So this is a stay away from in fantasy for me.
I am all for Rashad Bateman. If I have a feeling he's going to be a guy forgotten because he tore his ACL down the depth chart now. But the reason I like him is because he's their deep threat, and he's the one that after running the ball all game breaks free for the deep pass. So I like Bateman for that reason. I don't like Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers was a guy going into the draft that I did like a lot. He is a very good technician, but he doesn't fit into the Baltimore offense. They don't need a good slot receiver. That's what they have Andrews for. That's what they have a run game for. Like, that's how they move the chains. They don't need that 150 target guy who's going to average, 7 yards a catch or something low. So I think Rashad Bateman is the guy they need in general on the team. I can see Odell having an impact, but not a big one. How many times can you tear your ACL before your leg stops working?
So. Well, just real quick, Rashad Bateman was a foot injury, not an ACL. Very important for the year coming back. So
okay,
yeah.
So yeah, I'm even higher on him now.
There you go. Good.
All right, Jordan Addison, the last one. This is the interesting one. I believe, if I have this right, he is famous for being super tiny. He's 5'11", 175. That is not very big. I have not been best about my him. So he's coming in 23 years old to be the slot receiver, replacing Adam Thielen. I think this is an appropriate move, but I think it's the wrong move, and I don't think he's going to have much of a fantasy impact. What do you think?
Um, crap. I'm sorry. Can you help me out with the other receiver there? Obviously not Justin Jefferson. Um,
Oh, KJ Osborne. I thought you were
yeah,
talking about JJ. I'm like, dude,
no.
come on.
So obviously JJ 2 and 3 on that team. I think KJ Osborne did fine when Thielen was there. Coming from a guy who picked him up when Thielen wasn't there a few times in fantasy, just to be let down. I'm not super sold on KJ Osborne and Jordan Addison. I'm sorry, I can't get behind these tiny receivers. I just can't do it. Like reminds me of like Mecole Hardman who came out. I was like, oh man, he's super fast. He's pretty much another Tyreek Hill. Um, you know, I just don't buy it. I think that nothing's going to change the fact that Justin Jefferson's there. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Dalvin Cook. I love a guy who's not willing to take a pay cut. And I mean, Alexander Madison's there, but I don't think he's Dalvin Cook. Um, really, it'll be interesting to see what they do. Once again, in terms of a fantasy, not my big take from this was, we have been spoiled with first round talent at wide receiver and first round fantasy production the last few years. Going back, Justin Jefferson completely killed it. Jalen Waddle, he was overshadowed by Jamar Chase. In last year, Olave did just fine. Garrett Wilson, depending on who his quarterback was, did really well.
Drake London started off the year looking like the big thing.
Yeah. I just don't think. Now, I love Quentin Johnston. He'll be my highest one, but I don't think we have. There's no Jamar Chases. There's no Justin Jeffersons. I know probably not the boldest thing, but point is, I don't think you're going to see nearly the fantasy production from the first rounders this year as you have in the last few.
So a couple of guys. This is beyond. So if you want to throw commentary, you're welcome to. This is after the first round, but guys that I think are important to note. Number one is Jonathan Mingo. He's the Carolina second round pick, pick 39. I don't know much about him, but that is a team in need of wide receiver, and if he can connect with C.J. Stroud Bryce Young early, that could be an important connection. Who a guy gets more targets than you expect. And then the other one, yes, there's only one other one that I'm interested in, and that is Tank Dell for the Texans. He is C.J. Stroud's slot receiver, and he had about him going into the draft. So I think this is a team that needs, someone to catch the ball. He's going to be behind Robert Woods to start, but Robert Woods is old and just beat up and slow. So I think Tank Dell could be a sneaky guy to grab in like a, what's it called? With the dynasty draft.
Dynasty.
Or just a guy to keep your eye on throughout the year. Definitely don't draft him unless he like bursts through the scene in preseason. But the two guys with young rookies with young quarterbacks who can build a connection, at like OTAs and just like the rookie trading camps and everything that goes through.
I know, but as a general rule, I do not trust rookie quarterbacks to produce. Honestly, if you're not Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow, recently it hasn't been there. Look at Kenny Pickett last year. He ruined fantasy for a whole team.
Don't be ridiculous. Ask another
sorry,
guy.
Evan.
Hey, Matt Canada. That's who ruined that team.
Well, but point being, I typically stay away from those types of players, but I like, long term, I could see those, those guys being good. So dynasty, stick with them. Well, in dynasty.
All right. We are just about or minus the part I have to cut. I think we're going to NBA playoff talk just because give you your night back, and also the Warriors are playing the Lakers, and I kind of want to watch that.
Oh, so okay, 2 seconds. Who do you have winning, or who's in your championship?
What's the teams? Okay, well, give me a second to think. So layups, Chiefs and the Eagles.
No. NBA
Oh,
championship. Sorry.
awkward. So
It's coming up.
awkward. That's
I agree,
embarrassing.
Chiefs.
Give me the Warriors versus the Celtics round 2. Same as last year. I hate the Nuggets. I thought the Suns were going to beat them, but they have looked awful. And the Nuggets are going to breeze by them because they actually play basketball and the Nuggets don't, and the Suns don't. Whoever wins the Lakers Warriors series makes it there, though. And then the East, it's whoever wins Sixers, Celtics, and I think the Celtics are just better. What about you?
I would, as much as I would love to see Miami and Jimmy Buckets make it. Big Kevin Love fan. Love to say to see that he's relevant with the team after the Cavs threw him away without having any depth. Um, I
Dude,
do
Zach
think
Levin texts me. He's like, Kevin Love and all those hustle rebounds becomes one of your favorite players. And I go, dude, there's no way he could box out Mitchell Robinson. And then he only played like 15 minutes in game 1, but he like kept Mitchell Robinson off the glass. I'm like, that is exactly what we needed.
that was exactly what we needed. Yes, absolutely.
A 3-and-D guy who can box out.
3 and rebound guy. There we go. Perfect. Anyway,
good point, not defense.
As much as I would like to see them, no, it's the Celtics for sure. And I disagree. I want to see the Nuggets, mainly because I like Jokic.
I am the leader of the anti-Jokic club. So I see on Twitter all the time. The real MVP came out last night or 2 nights ago, and that's when Jokic went nuts for like 35 and
39 and 17. Yeah.
Yeah, and Joel Embiid didn't play. And the Sixers won. They're like, dude, someone put like real quick summary of MVP stats. Jokic 35, 17, blah blah blah. Embiid 0 0 0 0 0. Who's the real MVP?
There is a non-zero chance that Anthony Davis and the Lakers play the Nuggets in the Western Finals, and Anthony Davis completely embarrasses Jokic and can actually shut him down and score on him. I mean, definitely a possibility.
Like, I'm trying just like the anybody, because the Nuggets have so many flaws, but they just play like good, clean basketball. So a team like the Lakers would just be like, okay, fine, we're just gonna stop you. We'll leave Aaron Gordon open for 3. So I'm with you. It's either the Lakers. I know you want the Nuggets, but it sounds like you're leaning the Lakers if they did match up.
Yeah. So I yes. Anyways, I got Celtics, Nuggets, if not Celtics, Lakers. So we'll see.
So, well, Warriors are winning tonight. They're winning.
They are. Yes. Book it right now. Bet $2,000.
Things you can't say.
I'm sorry, $2 million.
There you go. That now people know it's sarcastic.
On the Warriors.
But the Lakers, man, like they just play 90s basketball. And the problem is they can't make it a whole series. Like I wouldn't be surprised. Like everyone would say if they win tonight, they win the series. But I'm telling you, I think if they win tonight, they're going to be gassed. And they're game 3, they'll get blown out. Like Anthony Davis said it at the end of game 1. He's like, "Oh man, dude, we were so tired." Like, don't tell the team that only runs.
I gotta tell you, LeBron looks old, man. He's the first time like I see him, and all the time he's just walking down the court, totally fine with D'Angelo Russell putting up whatever shit shot he's doing.
Dude, the tie game was it? What, I think it was a tie game. They walk down and they post up D'Angelo Russell on Andrew Wiggins. Like, what? Why is that the play call? I know it worked, but that's not what you should do. I have a great idea. Our point guard versus one of their best defenders.
All right, enough trash basketball. Hey, thanks for having me on again. I appreciate it. I like the baby break every once in a while is nice. So thanks.
Well, I might need you and Connor might need to learn how to operate this thing. My baby's on the way almost.
All right, take care.
I'll see you guys.